All right, welcome everyone. Today we're taking a deep dive into something,
Mm.
kind of different. We all experience them every day.
Yeah.
It's our five senses.
Right.
So we're going to be exploring this excerpt. It's called Sacred Senses.
Okay.
Go on. The Atlantean Brotherhood's Path to Divine Connection.
Oh, interesting.
Now, I know Atlantean Brotherhood, it might sound a little mystical,
Yeah.
but stick with us.
Yeah.
This source, it
Yeah.
presents this really fascinating concept.
Okay.
They saw the senses not just as these tools, but as like
Yeah.
these sacred portals to the divine.
Go.
And they call them
Okay.
the 5 points of fellowship, which is really cool.
I like that.
It suggests this bridge between ourselves
Okay.
and the cosmos.
It's a really compelling idea, I think, that challenges our usual way of thinking about our senses.
Yeah, totally. So where do we even begin with something like this?
Well, the text really emphasizes that the Atlanteans believed
Okay.
that our bodies
Mm-hmm.
are temples, not prisons for the soul.
Okay.
And each sense, they say,
Mm-hmm.
is a point of connection with the infinite.
Okay.
So they believe that we are our bodies, not separate from them,
Gotcha.
making our physical experience an integral part of any spiritual journey.
That's a really interesting contrast to like the mind-body duality idea
Yes.
that's so prevalent in Western thought.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah.
Huh.
It raises the question,
Okay.
if our senses are these sacred portals,
Hmm.
how did the Atlanteans believe we should use them?
They called it sensory communion,
Oh, okay.
meaning we actively participate in creation
Hmm.
through our senses rather than just passively observing the world.
I'm curious about how that might have played out
Yeah.
in their daily lives.
The text gives some vivid examples.
Oh, yeah.
Like seeing a sunset wasn't just about taking in light. It was seen as like
Yeah.
merging with it.
Wow.
Hearing bird song
Okay.
wasn't just sound waves hitting the eardrum,
Uh-huh.
but harmonizing with the universal rhythm.
That's a beautiful way of putting it.
Right.
It seems they approach their senses with a reverence we rarely see today.
Yeah.
Do they offer any insights
Yeah.
into each sense individually?
Absolutely. They delve into each one.
Okay.
So let's start with sight.
Okay.
They saw the eyes not only as windows to the soul,
Uh-huh.
but also as projectors shaping our reality.
Oh, wow.
So they emphasize that what we choose to focus on
Okay.
really matters.
It makes you wonder how much our modern world, with its constant
Yeah.
visual stimulation,
Yeah,
might be affecting our ability to truly see.
that's a really good point and something that we'll come back to later.
Okay.
Because the source does have some strong opinions about how modern society treats our senses.
Interesting. Okay.
But for now, let's move on to hearing. The text describes sound as a core vibration of creation, suggesting music, mantras,
Okay.
even silence aren't just entertainment,
Right.
but tools for inner alchemy.
So it's not just what we hear, but how we listen
Yeah,
and what we choose to allow into our awareness
exactly.
that impacts us.
Yeah. Then we have touch.
Okay.
The Atlanteans saw skin as the largest organ,
Uh-huh.
like a canvas for divine connection. It reframes even simple acts like a hug
Okay.
or feeling the grass as sacred exchanges of energy.
That's such a powerful image, and it highlights how often we take touch for granted, I think. It makes me consider
Surely.
the intention behind my physical interactions with the world around me.
And we can't forget about taste.
Right.
The text gets
Yeah.
quite poetic here,
Okay.
describing food not just as fuel,
Uh-huh.
but as a sacrament.
Yes.
Each bite a communion with the earth's bounty.
Wow.
It really makes you rethink your relationship with food.
This resonates deeply with the growing movement towards
Right.
mindful eating, I think.
Yeah,
Recognizing the source of our food and savoring each bite
totally.
can certainly transform a simple meal into a much more meaningful
Yes.
experience.
And last but not least,
Right, yeah.
smell.
Okay.
The Atlanteans believed it was a direct line to memory
Okay.
and spirit.
Interesting.
So scents like incense, flowers, rain
Yeah.
weren't just scents to them, they were like prayers,
Mm.
able to evoke these deeper states of awareness.
That's interesting, especially when you consider the strong connection
Right.
between smell and memory. That's been scientifically established.
Totally.
Certain scents can instantly transport us back
Yeah.
to specific moments in time.
It seems like the Atlanteans were tapping into this really powerful aspect of our sensory experience that we often just overlook.
It's clear that they viewed each sense as a pathway
Mm-hmm.
to a richer, more meaningful life.
Yeah.
But they also had some provocative things to say
Uh-oh.
of their way modern society influences our senses, didn't they?
Oh, absolutely. And that's where things get really interesting.
It's incredible how they viewed each sense as a pathway to a
Wow.
richer, more meaningful life.
Yeah.
But you mentioned earlier that they had
Yeah.
some pretty strong opinions
Yes.
about the way modern society influences our senses, right?
They did. It was almost like they predicted how our senses would become bombarded in the modern world.
Right, yeah.
Yeah.
What did they see as the problem?
Well, they claimed that modern society actually dulls our senses to keep us controllable,
Wow.
almost like a form of societal manipulation.
That's a pretty
Yeah.
big claim.
It
Yeah.
is.
Yeah.
They were talking about things that are all too familiar to us. Now,
What kinds of things?
things like fast food that numbs our taste buds, screens that overload our vision, and the constant noise pollution that makes true listening almost impossible.
Yeah.
Yeah, they called this the hijacked senses.
You know, when you think about it,
Yeah.
it's not that far-fetched.
All right.
We live in a world that's designed for constant stimulation, often at the expense of
Yeah.
our sensory well-being.
Totally.
How many of us
Yeah.
feel overwhelmed by the sheer volume of sensory input we encounter daily?
It's easy to see how our senses might get fatigued.
Precisely.
Yeah.
Our senses are constantly bombarded, and this can lead to
Yeah.
a kind of sensory numbness.
Right.
This numbness can disconnect us from the present moment and make it difficult to truly experience the richness of life.
So what did they suggest we do about it? Did they offer any practical solutions for reclaiming our senses?
Thankfully, they did.
Okay.
In fact, they had a whole section on what they called reclaiming the sacred senses.
Okay, I'm all ears.
All right.
What were their recommendations?
Well, they offered several different practices.
Okay.
One was sensory mindfulness, which we touched on earlier.
Right, that idea of slowing down and savoring each experience.
Exactly. It's about bringing conscious awareness to our senses
Okay.
and engaging with them intentionally.
Mm.
So instead of just wolfing down your food, for example, you would really focus on the taste, the texture, the aroma.
It's about bringing that same level of attention that we give to like a breathtaking sunset, to even like the most mundane activities.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's about finding the sacred in the everyday.
I like that.
Another practice that they recommended was a sensory detox.
Oh, that sounds intriguing.
Yeah.
Tell me more about that.
Essentially, it involves minimizing exposure to things that overload our senses.
So things like limiting screen time, turning off notifications.
Exactly.
Maybe spending time in nature where there's less sensory bombardment.
Precisely.
Yeah.
The idea is to give our senses a break, to allow them to reset and become more receptive to the subtleties of our environment.
It's like hitting the refresh button.
Exactly.
On our perception.
It allows us to reclaim our sensitivity and start experiencing the world with a renewed sense of wonder.
Did they have any other recommendations?
They did.
Okay.
They also talked about the importance of what they called ritualizing the senses.
Okay. What does that entail?
It involves intentionally engaging our senses in ways that elevate our awareness and connect us to something larger than ourselves.
Do you have any examples of that?
Sure. They suggested using candles to create a calming ambiance for the eyes.
Okay.
Playing sacred music to deepen our connection to sound.
Right.
And using essential oils to evoke a sense of peace and tranquility.
Okay.
Through smell.
It's like we're consciously curating our sensory experience to create an environment that supports our spiritual growth.
Right.
It almost sounds like a form of active meditation.
That's a great way to put it.
Yeah.
It's about using our senses not just to experience the world, but to transform our experience of the world.
You know, it's funny. We often think about meditation as this purely mental practice.
Yeah.
But the Atlanteans seem to have recognized the profound impact our senses can have on our inner state.
Exactly. And they understood that by consciously engaging our senses, we can actually shift our consciousness and access deeper states of awareness.
And all of this is leading back to their idea of the senses.
It is.
As gateways to the divine.
It is. Yeah. They believed that by cultivating sensory awareness and practicing these techniques, we could actually perceive the divine within the world around us.
It's such a radical idea.
It is.
But a beautiful one.
Yeah.
It suggests that the sacred isn't something separate from our everyday experience, but like woven into the very fabric of our sensory world.
And perhaps by reclaiming our senses and engaging with them mindfully, we begin to unravel those threads and experience that interconnectedness for ourselves.
It makes you wonder what we might be missing out on when we allow our senses to become dulled and distracted.
Indeed. Perhaps we're missing out on a deeper, richer experience of life, one that is filled with meaning and wonder.
It's almost like, we've been given these incredible gifts, but have just forgotten how to fully use them.
Yeah.
And we've let our senses become so dulled and distracted by,
by the demands of modern life.
The demands of modern life.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
It's true, I think. We often take our senses for granted.
Yeah.
But the Atlanteans, they really believed that they held the key to unlocking a deeper level of consciousness.
Right.
They really saw the body as a sacred vessel, and the senses as pathways to experiencing the divine in the everyday world.
This whole idea of the senses as gateways to the divine, it's both intriguing and a little bit daunting.
It is. It is a profound concept.
Yeah.
And it certainly invites us to reconsider our relationship with our senses. Imagine what it would be like to approach each sensory experience with a sense of reverence and awareness.
To see every sunset as emerging with light.
Yeah.
To hear every bird song as a harmony with the universe.
Yeah. It's a beautiful idea.
It really is.
And the Atlanteans believed it wasn't just a matter of passive appreciation.
Right.
They emphasized this active participation. Engaging with our senses in a way that deepens our connection to ourselves, to each other, to the world around us.
The text mentioned that the Atlanteans didn't build temples of stone.
Wow.
They lived as walking sanctuaries.
What a powerful image.
What a powerful image.
It suggests that the sacred is not confined to specific places or rituals.
Right.
But it can be found within each of us.
Yeah.
Within our very being.
So what does all of this mean for us?
Right.
Here and now?
Yeah.
What can we take away from this deep dive into the Atlantean perspective on the senses?
Well, I think the key takeaway is that our senses are not just tools for navigating the world.
Okay.
But they're potential pathways to deeper meaning and connection.
Yeah.
They can connect us to ourselves. To each other, to the natural world, even to something greater than ourselves.
It's like we've been given this incredible gift, but just totally forgotten how to appreciate it.
Exactly. But the good news is, it's never too late to reclaim our senses and rediscover the wonder that exists all around us.
So as we're wrapping up this deep dive, I'm curious, what stands out to you from this exploration of the sacred senses?
Perhaps it's sparked a desire to just pay closer attention to your own sensory experiences. Maybe to savor a meal.
Yeah.
To truly listen to music. Or to notice the subtle beauty of nature. With renewed appreciation.
Maybe it's inspired you to try a sensory detox to give your senses a break from that constant stimulation of modern life.
Yeah.
Or perhaps you feel drawn to create some simple ritual that engages your senses in a meaningful way.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Whatever resonates with you,
yeah,
I encourage you to explore it. See what happens when you start treating your senses.
Right.
Not just as tools, but as sacred portals to a richer, more meaningful life.
Remember that image of the Atlanteans as walking sanctuaries? What would it mean for you to embody that idea in your own life?
It's a question worth pondering.
Yeah.
And as you go about your day, maybe you'll find yourself noticing the world around you with a newfound sense of awareness and appreciation.
Well, thank you for joining us on this deep dive.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Into the sacred senses.
Absolutely.
Until next time, keep exploring.
Yes.
Keep wondering. And keep those senses open to the wonders all around you.